We're joined by Danya Perry, a former federal prosecutor for that same Southern District of New York. We've been playing some of the sound from Giuliani on the radio show, including some of that, which has come up throughout the week, the I'm not a crook line being one of the most notable. When you see these lawyers getting ready to defend him, what do we know about the real legal strategy apart from the talk radio defense?
We don't know much yet. What is interesting to me is Judge Etkin had issued an order that Giuliani's team was supposed to have replied to the U.S. Attorney's Office's letter requesting the appointment of a special master, and they were supposed to have done that by Monday. They have not yet filed that response, or at least not publicly. It's possible that it might have been sealed, although at a minimum, you'd expect to see an entry in the docket that a sealed document has been filed. So, but rather, 3 new lawyers have entered their appearances. So it does certainly indicate that they are getting ready to defend Mr. Giuliani, that they are, at least there's some show of force there. There's now 4 lawyers on the record, and we know Professor Dershowitz is in the background in an advisory capacity.
Is he ever really in the background?
I'm sure he'll be sure to take to all forms of media and make clear that he's.
I don't quibble. You know a lot more about the Southern District than I do, but I would never quibble with that. But I think he's a real foreground kind of lawyer.
You're right about that. I'm sure he's not the one doing the legal research and writing the briefs, but he is the one out there on the radio and TV. So we know that they're obviously getting ready to respond. We don't know, will this be a narrow response to the particular issue of whether there should be a special monitor or not, or will they mount a broader, some sort of offensive?
But walk us through what these lawyers have to do now, because it is different than I would say the vast majority of cases. For a lot of reasons, everyone understands. You got the president's former lawyer, which goes to the motion about the evidence that you discussed. You also have Donald Trump in the background. You have a fight over legal fees, but you also have a client who used to run this office who's very difficult to talk out of things. And so I think you and I could agree as lawyers that claiming without evidence that the government's trying to frame you is not a great opening legal defense. It's not a great middle defense. It's not a great closing argument unless you have really hard evidence. What do these lawyers that we just mentioned that are now new to the case, what do they have to do with their client Giuliani as he makes public radio arguments that may not be the ones they want to make in court for him?
Yeah, so he is going to keep talking. That's clear. He's been speaking for the past 2 years on the record in ways that are probably ultimately going to be unhelpful, including, I think, some admissions to some of the elements of some of these illegal lobbying violations. And he continues to do it. And, there's an old expression in the law that a lawyer who represents himself has a fool for a client. And I'm sure his lawyers are telling him that and telling him to keep quiet, but he's obviously not taking their counsel on that. But look, we may see a selective or malicious prosecution defense. That's a really hard one to make. It's an uphill battle that almost never works. And here, as you say, there would have to be some really hard evidence for that. But, they have signaled that they will be questioning the constitutionality of the search. And, there are some other plausible defenses. They certainly will be in the weeds as far as whether particular materials are privileged or not. So you referred to Donald Trump in the background. He's also not much of a background player, but he also could surface in this and put in some papers to say that he has interests here too. So and we'll be watching for that, of course.
Yeah, I think that'll be fascinating. That may take more time, but whether these two were discussing things that were part of their attorney-client privilege, which they would be entitled to have as long as they can substantiate it, at the very time that Donald Trump, as we've been covering tonight, was trying to get an edge and cheat in the election, go after the Bidens, get help from Ukraine and other countries, which he said publicly, which all the way led back up to the insurrection. It's wild how many of these stories remain intertwined until all the facts come out and justice is done. Danya Perry, thank you, as always, for your insights on the Southern District and beyond. Coming up...